This video is made possible by Second Call Defense. Second Call Defense provides immediate, upfront legal protection for a member who is forced to use any legal weapon for self-defense. So protect yourself today with Second Call Defense. I did. You'll find the link in the description. Hi, I'm Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your support of GunGuyTV. I'm super grateful for everything you do, so please keep doing it. You might also want to check us out on these alternative video distribution locations because YouTube, as you probably already know, doesn't like gun channels, and once in a while they delete a video or restrict one, and they have threatened in the past to delete the channel entirely. So please subscribe to one of these other locations as well. You will notice we have added Odyssey recently, and the entire channel is also duplicated over there. You might also check out the GunGuyTV audio podcast. You'll find it on your favorite podcast player, and it comes out twice a month. Okay, what am I talking about today? Coming up tomorrow is the New York rifle and pistol case regarding concealed carry in the state and city of New York. That's going to be heard by the Supreme Court of the United States tomorrow for oral argument. Now, we probably won't get a decision until sometime in June. Nevertheless, the oral argument should be very, very interesting. With that in mind, I contacted Gun Owners of America because I am a life member of GOA. I suggest you join as well, and you will find a link in the description. And Alan Rice was kind enough to talk with me about New York specifically. What I wanted to know from Alan was, why is New York such a big deal? I live in California, arguably the worst state in the union for firearms restrictions, but not. New York and New Jersey are a lot worse. I asked him, how does New York compare to California and other restrictive states? And this is what he told me.
A point that people need to know about New York, it's not just carry. The state of New York regulates every aspect of handgun ownership, possession, and use. A person wishing to have a single handgun in their home needs a state license. If they want to get a second gun, they need a second, what I derisively refer to as a permission slip. They need a second permission slip, and so forth and so on. So prior government permission. The presumption of innocence does not appear to exist in New York. They presume someone's going to do something wrong, and they put people through this onerous licensing scheme. And this has been going on in New York for over 100 years. It's way out of the mainstream norm of the rest of the country. What's even more outrageous is that a person who might get a license in New York to carry concealed, if they can demonstrate what the state calls proper cause, which the courts have narrowly defined, the license isn't even good in New York City. They would need a special New York City license. You know, through my work with gun owners, I meet a lot of gun owners across the country, and I've met a lot of Californians, and I've met regular people, not celebrities, not law enforcement, just regular people, you know, electricians, plumbers, handymen. Some of them are in the gun industry, gunsmiths. They get carry licenses in a lot of large areas of California. That's not the case in New York.
Now, one area of, it's kind of a bone of contention in California is that it's not a shall issue state. In California, just so that you know, you have to provide something called good cause. The permits are issued by the local sheriffs, and if you're in California, you know that some sheriffs, most sheriffs actually, issue fairly easily. It's not that hard to demonstrate good cause, but some sheriffs have the good cause requirement ratcheted so high that it's not impossible to get a permit. And at least in California, when you get a permit from your local sheriff, it is valid throughout the state, and even in those areas where sheriffs aren't issuing, like Los Angeles, they don't issue very much, or San Francisco or whatever. My permit's issued by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. He makes it fairly easy, and my permit is valid throughout the state. I wanted to know, how does that compare to New York? So I asked Alan.
The New York Attorney General writes, applicants seeking a license to carry a concealed handgun in public without restriction must show an actual and articulable rather than merely speculative or specious need for self-defense. They have to show an actual an articulable need for self-defense. Let me parse that for the viewers for a second, if I could. The plaintiffs concede they don't face any special or unique danger. Okay, they admit that they haven't been threatened. They don't have a special need, but nonetheless, they want to carry a handgun in public for self-defense. That's prudent, it's reasonable, and it's normal in the majority of U.S. states. Most reasonable people, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, will not knowingly go into a situation, a place, a city, a neighborhood, where they think they're going to be confronted with a violent attack. They will avoid it. That's human nature. If I know that if I go downtown today to get the mail and get my lunch and everything else, I'm going to run into a violent felon, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay home. People wish to carry guns for self-defense to protect against the unknown, the unpredictable, the criminal act that they wish to avoid, but through bad circumstances, it finds them. That's why people wish to carry a gun, and that's why the majority of states have what's called the shall issue law, meaning if the applicant meets a clearly defined set of standards, no criminal history, no felony records, things of that nature, they shall issue the license. There's no discretion vested with the issuing authority. 21 of those states, a citizen doesn't need a license. It's called constitutional carry. All of these states can't be wrong. New York treats firearms owners or prospective firearms owners seeking to get a license as presumed criminals. That's a huge violation of not only the Second Amendment, but pretty much the entire Constitution.
Now, by the time he got this far, I was fairly convinced that all northeastern states were very, very restrictive. That's not the case. He's in New Hampshire, where they don't have any of this nonsense. But I was curious if he would contrast and compare against some other similar states in that region of the country and tell us whether New York is actually worse than some of those other ones.
Let me take two anti-gun states that are borders and show you the difference. New York and Massachusetts. Both states require a license to have a firearm in your home. That's where the similarity ends. In Massachusetts, a person's thinking of buying a gun. They go to a gun store, they look at different guns and decide, they like this particular gun, it fits their budget, it's nice to have. The gun dealer shows it to them, they can handle it, they can touch it, they can see how much it weighs. If the gun store has an indoor range and rentals, they can even shoot it on the indoor range. New York, a person cannot even touch a handgun without a license. Both states require you to apply for the license. In Massachusetts, most people, there are exceptions. It's not a shall issue state. It's not a pro-gun state. Most people can navigate through the maze and end up with a license to carry. And they're limited as to what types of guns they can buy. They're limited on magazine capacity. But if they get the license, they can buy a handgun or 2 or 5 or 10 and carry it statewide, including in the cities of Boston, Springfield, and Worcester, urban centers. New York has these classes of licenses. It can be restricted to hunting or target or employment. It's only valid outside of the city. Presumably it's valid on Long Island, but if you're in upstate, look at a map, you can't get to Long Island without traveling through the city. So it's not really valid. It can take up to a year to get. It's very expensive. They allow the local authorities to add additional requirements where, while New York City says we don't have a total gun ban, the requirements that they've added in the multi-page application, John Stossel did a video on it. The requirements are insurmountable for the average person. There's industries that are set up. There's businesses that will navigate the process for a person. You shouldn't need to hire a business to get a license to exercise a constitutional right that shouldn't be licensed in the first place.
Before I go any further, and actually before I wrap up, let me clarify why I have Gun Owners of America on my show and not NRA. I am a life member of the National Rifle Association. I've supported NRA for more years than I care to count, but it has become a dumpster fire, to put it mildly. And it's I don't do anything with them or for them anymore. And until they get their act squared away, I'm not going to do it. However, I've also been a supporter of Gun Owners of America for a long time. And as I mentioned, I am a life member, and I do urge you to join and support GOA. That said, one of the things I have always admired about Gun Owners of America is their strong, no-nonsense, no-compromise stance on things. So I ask Alan what GOA's opinion of this whole case was, and what does GOA really, truly want?
Well, GOA's position is the entire country should be constitutional carry. That's what we want. We don't believe in licenses, permits, registration, any of that. We think it's all unconstitutional. The entire country should be constitutional carry. That's what we want as Gun Owners of America.
Now, I completely agree. The entire country should be constitutional carry. The Second Amendment is your permit, and you should not have to genuflect in front of a government authority, explain why, or pay them a fee to exercise a constitutionally protected right given you by God. And that's what the Second Amendment protects, is your God-given right to defend yourself and to carry the tools necessary to do that. That having been said, it does seem that in recent times, people who don't want to follow the law simply don't. And when I'm talking about people, I'm talking about governments. So I asked Alan what he thought the actual practical results of this case might be in New York and New Jersey and similar states.
In my observation, some states are more likely to follow the court than others. Connecticut is an interesting example. Connecticut, by statute, is not a shall-issue state. It's a may-issue state. But by operation, it's a shall-issue state. Pretty much anyone who wants a license in Connecticut can get one. So I don't think a lot's going to change in Connecticut. Massachusetts could go either way. Some areas of the state, unless the legislature actually changes the law, some areas of the state might speed up the licensing, maybe do away with the reference requirements that they add, where they require letters of reference or things of that nature. I don't know what Massachusetts will do. I think New Jersey will fight it tooth and claw. I don't see New Jersey giving any quarter to that. Delaware, going down the eastern seaboard. Delaware's not a shall-issue state. I'm told by people that it's kind of a 50-50 shot if you'll get a license in Delaware. Out of the eastern seaboard states, I think Maryland and Delaware are the most likely to obey the court. But that's just Alan Rice, GOA spokesman, speculating. I really don't know what's going to happen.
So there you have it. He thinks New York is, maybe they'll obey it, maybe they won't. Some other states, maybe they'll obey it, maybe they won't. New Jersey will fight it tooth and nail. And so the point behind this is to let you know that while this case is extremely important, the battle does not stop here. The Supreme Court said in Heller very clearly that courts were not supposed to use balancing tests. They were supposed to look at the text history and the tradition of the right. They just didn't mandate it. They suggested that that's what they do, and courts around the country have been ignoring the Supreme Court for 10 years over that. Hopefully the court will clarify it further, but this is going to be an ongoing battle. Groups like in California, the California Rifle and Pistol Association, Gun Owners of California, which is the Gun Owners of America folks in California, Gun Owners of America, the Second Amendment Foundation, the Firearms Policy Coalition, these groups that are fighting tooth and nail for your rights are going to need your help, and they're going to continue doing it beyond this case. So don't think this case is the end of everything. Unfortunately, it's not. I'm hoping for a big victory, and tomorrow we'll see what the oral argument is like. And then I do have a constitutional attorney scheduled to come on the show shortly thereafter, probably not tomorrow, but within a few days, to kind of parse what he saw in oral arguments and where he thinks this court case is going to land. So stick around. Have a wonderful week. Thank you very much for all of your support. And wherever you go, whatever you do, stay safe.